Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, we're going to review the concept of velocity banking on Sunday morning. Because right now it is 9:50 a.m. Sunday, November 5th, and I'm going to crank out a velocity banking video before I have to leave my house because it's velocity banking Sunday school. I don't think if anybody else has ever done that, but today we're going to have velocity banking Sunday school. All right. So if you've never heard of velocity banking, go ahead and click the link down below to Velocity Banking 101 and then come back to this video for a review. So velocity banking, we really only need to do two things, right? And what are those two things? Number one is your budget. Number two is you have to select an operating account, which will be your line of credit, and replace your main banking tool, financial tool, which was originally your checking account, and then use your line of credit for that. And you might be asking, what's a line of credit? Do you have a credit card? And if the answer to that is yes, then you know what a line of credit is, because all a line of credit is a financial tool where you could borrow money, pay it back, and then use it over and over and over again, right? So here uh, we have I've semi-written down a budget already, and we're gonna break these down in two columns: the average American and the velocity banking or banker. And the average American is kind of like a derogatory term, kind of like I don't know if you ever heard of the term standard American diet, and then you get the acronym of that for it's SAD, because the standard American diet is quote sad. That's the sad state of the financials of the average American today. It's kind of sad, right? And that's why we use the term average American. But let's go ahead and write down a budget. So we'll just say for this person, makes a pretty good income of 6,000 a year, right? We'll have some expenses, and we're going to write down checking, savings, and the cash flow. So give me one moment. So what we're going to do is just break down their expenses, the average American's expenses. So what's important is when we do the expenses, we list down every single debt that we have, because every single debt is kind of a cash flow that's being taken away from us that we want to easily recover. So here we just write down the monthly payment here, 645, 400, 1200. And what we're going to do is go ahead and sum this up. So this will be the sum of B8 to B12, right? And we'll say other is maybe 1,500, so food, gas, insurance. And we'll see that we have a pretty decent paycheck, but we got a little bit spendy, and we have about $60,000 in credit card debt and $200,000 mortgage. So we're not paycheck to paycheck, but we're kind of getting there. And let's just kind of see what happens right here. So equals B2 minus B3, right? And so that's $1,205 that we're parking away in our checking or savings. And then we're going to put $0 cash flow here. So why do we put $0 cash flow? Well, the idea is that the average American, when they put checking and savings parked somewhere, it's literally just kind of doing nothing, right? And I've met a bunch of people who say, oh, I have $20,000 in my checking savings and I have $20,000 in credit card balances. And it's like, okay, well, one balance is like 0.001% interest, if any. If it's in the savings, and if it's checking, it's probably giving you zero. And the credit card balance is charging you 20-30% interest, right? And then so it's like, all right, well, this is just kind of like it's like stale water, right? It's not really doing anything. You don't want stale water. Stale water turns into rotten water, right? So that's the whole idea of this zero cash flow. It's like stale water, even though you are actually technically positive every single month. Now, let's figure out how we can re-engineer our finances to give ourselves a little bit of breathing room, because someone who's, let's say making really good money, 6,000 a year, that's probably, I don't know, maybe $100,000 a year salary after taxes, is kind of living almost on the edge. Now, some of you might say, oh, like I literally live on the edge. Yeah, I get it. But the higher income you make, It's all relative, right? So how can we re-engineer this so that we can give ourselves more breathing room and work better, right? And some of you have said, well, why don't you do this with like lower income amounts? Because velocity banking is not an income generation strategy. It's a debt and cash flow management strategy. So if you don't have the income, first of all, like you're not going to be able to get a line of credit because every single bank or financial institution out there, even if you have good credit but no income, is never going to give you a line of credit, right? And so if you do have like a 30, 20,000, $10,000 credit card bill or balance, and you have a low income, the reason that you're probably able to get such high limits on a credit card is because you probably lied on your credit card application, right? And you never want to lie on your credit card application because my understanding of it is it's a federal crime, right? So don't lie on these things. Be truthful. Put your actual information. If you get denied, that's better than lying and then getting a credit limit that you shouldn't be getting based on your income and your credit profile. Okay. All right. So now we got that covered. So now let's go ahead and try to re-engineer our financiers. And so what is the operating account that we're going to use? So we're going to use instead of our checking account, we're going to use our line of credit as our main operating account, right? And so here's the cool thing, right? We're a homeowner. And let's say, even though we just started a 30-year mortgage, 200K, we bought it right because we bought it at a discount. So this could probably be like, I don't know, a 300K home, and we might have like 100K in equity, right? And what's the easiest way to wealth? This is one of my real estate mentors always told me. Like he just kind of says it over and over again to the point that it's been drilled in my head. Buy real estate at a discount, right? So if you buy a $300,000 property at 200K, or maybe a little bit more than 200K, that's instant wealth right there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the bank and say, Mr. and Mrs. Bank. I don't know if anybody actually addresses the bank like that, but we're going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Bank, please let me apply for a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. And all a home equity line of credit is a credit card. It's almost like a credit card based on the value of your home minus any debts, right? That's what equity is. The home value, the estimated home value minus the debts. So we'll say, in this case, the bank is very generous, and although some people might consider this to be low, to allow you to borrow up to $80,000. So what does this mean? That you click a button on the bank's website, and then you could get up to maybe, boom, $80,000 in your checking savings account. And then you can use it for whatever purposes. Usually the way that the bank markets it to your average home buyer who has equity is like redo your kitchen or something like that, or they'll tell you about how you can make home improvements. Now, again, ask your bank, and the bank will let you know what the terms and conditions are. So don't do anything unethical, and don't do anything stupid or illegal either. But let's say that the bank gave you an $80,000 credit limit. Okay, so now let's figure out how we can redo our expenses so we can free up some cash flow. So now let's take a look at this, right? So we have $30,000 here, 20,000 and $10,000 here, credit card balances. Why don't we just wipe them? So first of all, these are all 30% interest. So why don't we just wipe them from here and do a transfer to here so it's a 30 to 10, right? So not only are we transferring the debt to a lower interest rate, we're going to free up all this cash flow. So how much do I need to free up all this cash flow? 60K. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to bank's website and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Bank. I don't think I have no idea if anybody actually says that, but Mr. or Mrs. Bank, I need $60,000, and then you click that bank's website, and then boom, you got $60,000 in your checking and savings, right? And then you apply to all these debts, credit card here. So you wipe this out, this goes to zero, this goes to zero, this goes to zero, right? And so now we have a $60,000 balance in our line of credit. Okay. So now this is going to go to zero. This checking and savings is going to go to zero. So now let's kind of redo our finances as a velocity banker. So $6,000 is still the paycheck. Now the expenses, right? So we're just going to copy that formula from here. sum of C8 to C12, right? So C8 to C12, you see that on this bar right here. And then the idea, and so let me go ahead and fill this out too. 1,200 a month, 1,500 a month. So now this cash flow is going to be the paycheck minus the expenses. So it's C2 minus C3, right? So the basic strategy is this. You put this entire paycheck into the line of credit, which does two things. It satisfies a minimum monthly payment, so it's not really an expense anymore. And number two, it lowers the interest at the lowest average daily balance possible. So the way that credit cards, line of credit balances work is that it takes the average daily balance during that time, and then that's when it calculates the interest at the end of the month, right? So if you put your entire paycheck in it, then you have the lowest average daily balance. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take out this $2,700 in expenses like the day before it's due, right? Day before it's due. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do this, right? We're going to see how long it is going to take for us to pay off these 3 credit cards. So we've basically increased our cash flow. Look how much our expenses have magically decreased, right? Because it went from $4,795 to magically $2,700. And then now let's see how long it's going to take us to pay off this $60,000 of debt. Again, this is more or less an estimate, right? So this should be G2 minus your cash flow, which is 3,300. Okay. And then let's see when we copy and paste the formulas, how long it takes us to go to 0. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is figure out how many months it's going to take us. So be I2 plus 1. All right. So now, whoopsie. All right. So now let's go ahead. And it's going to take us about 19 months to pay off our credit card debt after doing a HELOC transfer. Okay. So now let's go ahead and calculate that interest rate. So this will be, we're going to estimate it by taking the previous month's balance. And this is going to be a almost close, but not accurate estimation because the interest is calculated by the average daily balance. But the previous month's balance is good enough. So it'll be G2 times 10% divided by 12, right? So the interest rate is quoted annually, and we divide by 12 because we're trying to get the monthly interest rate. And then now what we do is go ahead and sum this up. There's this little sum button right here. I remember learning this in high school, that we're only going to pay about $4,800 for this $60,000 credit card debt. Okay. And now let's go ahead and figure out 4,800. Okay, so we have 4,800 in interest here. So we kind of have to just add that here. I mean, technically it's not calculated like this, like you add the interest or you pay the interest every month, but I'm just trying to make it easier for you to visualize. So if we add 4,800 here and our cash flow is 3,300, it's probably going to be 20 months or so when we pay it off. And so 20 months divided by 12 is about 1.6 years. So let's just kind of write down our results. So 1.6 years to pay off 60K credit card debt. And the interest is about 4.8K. Right? So not bad, right? And if we just kind of left it in the HELOC, I think it would have just been a lot more costlier because of that 30% interest. Okay, so now let's do this. We freed up 3,300, right? And now what we have to do is tackle on the last debt, which is the mortgage. Okay, so it's a $200,000 mortgage. So the way that we do it is because we have to kind of consider a couple of things. The difference in interest rates, right? So this is a 10% interest rate, and this is a 6% interest rate. You don't exactly want to dump the entire thing into the mortgage, right? Maybe you could just do little chunks like $10,000, $20,000, because if you dump the entire thing, and you transfer, let's say, a lower interest rate loan to a higher interest rate loan or line of credit, but there's not enough cash flow, like the the monthly payment compared to the loan balance is very there's a big difference, then you'll see that the results may not be as effective. Okay, so it's better just to do it in small chunks in this situation, when you have a situation where you have a very large loan compared to a low monthly payment. So let's just take a look at this. How long would it take us to go from $200,000 to $90,000, or I'm sorry, $190,000, let's say $10,000, according to the bank schedule? And that's why we have this big calculator right here, bank rate amortization schedule calculator. You just Google it. And I'll just say the loan start date is January. And then if we go to the schedule right here, how long will it take us to pay off $10,000 in the loan? It's about 4 years, right? Probably a little bit less than 4 years. And then take a look at all the interest, 45K. Holy something. What's that Seinfeld term? That Frank from Seinfeld would scream out when oh, Serenity Now. That's what it is. Serenity Now. All right. So let's go back here. And so the idea is, let's just do a quick, let's say $10,000 transfer to that mortgage. And how long does it take us to pay off that $10,000? Well, it's just this minus the cash flow. So let's just go ahead and do that. So G2 minus 3,300. Okay. And then, yeah, so this will be about 0. Okay. Or well, actually, let's just do this. What if I do not 1,900? Yeah, so it'll just be 3 months. Okay. So 0. So instead of 10,000, we'll just do 9,900. So we'll just do, let's see how long it takes. 1, 2, 3. All right, so now this is going to take us about 3 months to do. So we put our paycheck in, we take our expenses out, we do it the same again, and then once it goes to 0, we rinse and repeat, right? And how much interest are we paying? So this will be the previous month's balance, so G2 times 0.1 divided by 12. All right, so now let's go ahead and sum this up. And you could see that if we went to the bank schedule, right, to pay off the $10,000, we'd be paying $45,000 in interest around. But we go here and we do about $10,000, not exactly close. We pay it off in 3 months instead of 4 years, and we only paid $165 in interest. Mind blown, right? And so all you do is just rinse and repeat over and over again until this sucker goes to 0. So it's 200, 190, 180, 170. And then we have this velocity banking calculator that you can use if you're a member of the group, which is kind of like a cheat sheet, right? So let's just say, I know that, when you're paying off your mortgage and doing velocity banking, this number isn't going to stay the same. It's, this took 1.6 years to pay off, right? So 1.6 years. But if you want to make it easy, just go to just start off 200. But 1.6 years, what's 0.6 times 12? Let's go ahead. 0.6 times 12 months and see how many months that is. So after about 7, 8 months, so it's about August or so, then this would be the balance. So you could do it that way if you really want to be diligent. But sometimes I'm just lazy and I just want to do, just pretend that the current balance and the original balance is the same. So let me just do this, and 1,200 payment. Well, I think it's like 1,119, 199. That's okay. That's good enough. All right. So 1,200, and then we're just going to do $1,200, $10,000 chunk in the line of credit. And then we're going to put in our monthly income, which is $6,000. Our living expenses. What's our living expenses? Well, it's just only $1,500 because the mortgage payment is already included in our little cheat sheet calculator right here, provided by Renatus, right? So uh, we talk about that within our group. So if you're interested in joining our group and learning about real estate and financial education, uh, we're certainly going to talk about Renatus. Okay, so monthly income is $6,000. 1,500 is the other food, gas, insurance. We're going to go ahead and do that, and let's see how long it takes us to pay off this loan. 4.2 years, right? So 4.2 years to pay off our mortgage, and we only paid off. If we went to the bank schedule, we would have paid $212,000 in interest, but because we're doing velocity banking, we're paying off $26,000. Now, here's the thing I want to show, just to kind of make my point about you don't want to do the entire line of credit. So let's say like you had a mortgage that was $200,000 and 6%, and the monthly payment was only 1,200, and you decided to get a $200,000 line of credit and just kind of replace the mortgage at 10%. Take a look at that. So it takes longer to pay, 4.7 years, and it's $51,000 in interest instead of like 27, right? So in this case, it's best to do it in little chunks than it is to replace the whole mortgage. When you're dealing with two lines of credit where one has, or a loan and a line of credit where the loan amount is so huge compared to the payment amount, that it doesn't free up too much cash flow when you replace it with the line of credit. Okay. All right. So this is Karina Lanta at Mentorship. Hope you enjoyed the Sunday school fun of velocity banking. I didn't think I'd ever in my life on a Sunday morning I ever teach this, but I got to leave soon. Hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day, and we will speak soon.